Good evening, I'm Sean Moody. Larry Smith and Nancy Cox both have the evening off. For months, LEX18 Investigates has looked into a controversial circuit judges race in Scott, Bourbon, and Woodford counties. The Kentucky Court of Appeals recently ruled the candidate Rob Johnson can stay on the ballot. 3 weeks from Election Day, the race is heating up. Tonight, Lee Searcy shows us how in this LEX18 Investigates update.
It's a highly contested race between a former judge and a first-time judge.
The way I can do drug court, and I will do drug court.
You cannot do drug court. That is part of the criminal docket.
It got heated at this candidates forum Tuesday between Assistant Prosecutor Rob Johnson and appointed Circuit Judge Katie Gabhart, both running for an 8-year term that comes with a $141,000 annual salary paid by taxpayers. The candidates have traded barbs over Johnson being married to the Commonwealth's attorney and over Gabhart having less courtroom trial experience. Johnson used to be a judge in the circuit for 12 years.
Any attorney can put on a robe, but it takes trial experience to make an effective trial judge.
Gabhart, appointed in May, spent much of her career at the Kentucky Executive Branch Ethics Commission.
The reason why I got into this race is because of ethics.
Most of the publicity has surrounded Johnson and whether he can do all of the job being married to the Commonwealth's attorney in charge of felony criminal cases that ethically Johnson couldn't touch.
I need to clarify some misinformation being spread about my campaign.
Johnson says his wife, Sharon Muse-Johnson, would never appear in his court because he would handle all the civil cases, while the only other judge would take all the criminal cases in the 3 counties.
There are numerous examples across the state of family members serving in different legal roles in the same community.
Johnson is right. There are family members who work in the same court circuit. But has there ever been a husband and wife to serve as judge and Commonwealth's attorney at the same time in the same circuit? Not that we found. And that's after a thorough check of records going back to 1978 here at the Kentucky State Law Library.
The Administrative Office of the Courts told us, quote, "We are not aware of that situation in recent memory." At the Scott County Republican Party's forum, someone asked Johnson if there's been a circumstance in Kentucky like the couple's.
Honestly, I don't know how to answer. I don't know the answer to that question. I do know currently that that the head of the Department of Public Advocacy is married to a circuit judge.
There's also been questions about the plan of splitting up the civil and criminal cases between judges. Johnson has said that civil cases take up more than half of the circuit's workload.
All rise.
That's Chief Judge Jeremy Maddox, the other judge. He can't address the race, but was given an informal opinion from the Judicial Ethics Commission advising him that he could speak publicly about claims related to the court's workload.
It's being articulated that 63% of the workload in our circuit is related to civil cases and that only 37% of the work is criminal cases, and that's just not true.
Maddox references an AOC study released in 2020 that indicated criminal cases took up more of a judge's time than civil ones. It showed that almost the same amount of time was spent on 23 homicide cases in the circuit as was spent on more than 1,300 contract civil cases.
Is it possible for you to handle every criminal case in all 3 counties? Is that possible?
Possible, yes. Practical, probably not. But if you have 2 judges who conduct criminal cases, you can be in 2 places at once because there's 2 of you.
Johnson still campaigns that he is the best one for the job based on his experience and continues to question Gabhart's courtroom trial experience.
I'm not overinflating my trial experience. It is what it is. But what is more important is my experience for the Commonwealth.
In 6 months on the bench, Gabhart says she's presided over 3 civil trials and 0 criminal trials. In the end, voters will have to weigh what matters to them. Lee Searcy, LEX18 News.
In a statement late today, Johnson disputed that criminal cases take up more of the workload, saying that court dockets don't tell the whole story. He says much of the work in civil cases takes place outside the courtroom.